Test. I was short here 0150 before this break of these lows, and my expectation was that this range would be taken out, these lows would be taken out back into this trouble here at about 9150, would have been almost a 10-point target. What happened is we pushed down below these lows and made this low tick. And if I was right on the trade, the pullback makes sense, and it took me out to the tick because I de-risked. So wondering a little bit if my de-risk should have been below these lows, but I also felt that if this area didn't hold in this area, I was very likely to see the highs and take a full loss. So felt it was an aggressive entry, but hesitant because this pullback is definitely likely. So, and it came back to the tick to take me out, and now the trade is playing out like I had read, and we'll see if we get back down to this 91.75 area, but it looks like that's the case. Looking back at this trade on this push down here, this is structure that I'm not surprised held here at 93.50, so a better target would have probably been right in front of that, which would have still been a nice trade for 6-7 points. I could have locked that in to first trouble anyway. But the volume on this push up was more here. That's what I was going for. So either this would have been, again, a break even, or if I locked in something here, I feel like to lock in 2, 3, 4 points would have been pretty reasonable as well. And there's that 91.75 target that I had set here. So nice trade, but on this push up, I would not have been comfortable in through this demand that came in here. So I tried to find a way into this long trade here on oil. This is a new low tick here and new lows, overnight low, back into a tremendous amount of space. So it was a little bit risky, but what I liked about it is that after we pushed up above all of this high volume here, if we didn't hold this structure, we would have all of these shorts in the market trapped here and a nice potential to come up into this, the volume up here, into this this last supply. So the issue though for this trade is that realistically, buying here at about the 120 round number, there's not really any place, not wrong on this trade until down into 60. So 40 tick stop is not reasonable for my method, but chart read, it makes sense, being that all these shorts being trapped and a nice potential. And then we pushed all the way up to the 120, 90, basically 121. So I was trying to get long in the ES after we pushed up through here, held the structure, this low volume node. We came back and tested this demand from the top side. And so after this push up, I was really looking to get the long. The only issue I was hoping for is that we would see some kind of spike down and push through here. That would have been ideal. And then we had this compression, and I almost entered just right at market, but we had a small push up, and I was trying to get in at 0425, right above the volume, for that to hold with a pretty deep small stop. So I really liked the possible upside here, and my target would have been possibly all the way up into 19 here to fill in this space. I feel like that's definitely still likely if we don't have some real large sellers come back into the market. But I mean, so far we've gone to 1350 or so, so almost a 9-point run from where I was looking to enter. So nice trade, just didn't quite have a good place to enter there. Expectation now would be on any kind of a pullback we get, we would hold this structure here, the top side of this structure, or even these sellers. So all these sellers are potentially trapped. All these sellers are trapped, and we definitely have increase volume here and a push away from this value area. So I wouldn't be surprised to see any kind of a retrace into this 06 area, but now that we've pushed above and made a new high, I'm going to have a hard time getting long here again. Try to get long again here after this push up here, and I was trying to get an entry here at 1125, and it just went off all the way up to my target into that 19 area. And this is the range that I'm trading, even though we created a new overnight high. But the major indication for me of the long possibility is that we came up here on high or increased volume and definitely had some limit selling here. So at this point you could definitely say, well, this high ticked as well, so maybe the opportunity is to the short side to come down. But what I saw is that once we came back below this area and failed to hold this area here, these lows, these buyers here, when this didn't hold, this was an indication to me that the sellers were likely not still in control. And we pushed up above, and I thought that we at least had a chance to go up into that 19 area and hit that target. And that's exactly what happened. Unfortunately, it went off without me. So if the sellers were still strong, this area should have held, and we should have at least came back down into this previous demand to take out the bottom of this range. So I'm trying to improve the way that I trade and focus more on the read rather than always low ticking or high ticking, because especially in the ES, it doesn't tend to make the low ticks and the taking out the opposite sides of the range like it does in oil. So being a little bit more aggressive on and focusing on my read rather than just focusing on the liquidity that's taken out. I just took a short. Unfortunately, I didn't get it recorded. I took a loss here on this push down below, and I felt that these buyers were trapped, and we had a nice chance to come down through these lows at least, and then we spiked up through here, and then that trade was much better, increase in volume and also coming up to this LVN here and a push down. I took it high up in the range, so anticipating the breakdown, but I felt like that was the shakeout that I was anticipating when I took the loss, unfortunately. So I took a 4-point loss on that trade and then got in here at about 42.75 below the volume here. So it was a little risky because you could have said that this value area could have held, but it immediately broke down, and I took about a 8-point profit, a little less, 7.5 points. And the concept and the idea for the trade was that we would take out these lows again, come back down into this untested demand in through here. So the target really was a break of these lows from Friday and a push down into this LVN around 24, 25. So real big target on that one, about 15 points. So I locked in about half of what the target was. But you can see on the retrace, price came all the way, put in this compression volume, limits buyers coming in here, and then held the structure from below and then made the push down to the target. So nice trade there. Another one I missed, and I believe that Kelly took the trade, was this one around this area in through here, came back, put in some big volume here, nice demand, push up, came back down, held the structure, and then anywhere in this bar to around 904 in this area before the break of this liquidity high here. And then all of this is fairly weak, and I would have been trading that up through these tops around the structure around 71.25. So that would have been a real nice, that's about a 10-point winner. And I think Kelly took 10 points on that one. So beautiful trade, just couldn't execute on it. This wasn't the best structure from a low standpoint. The volume, I like the volume and the push down below the previous lows, but not a real strong low. But it definitely held here. And then this is when we can see that all of these shorts were trapped in this area, all of this high volume. So all of these people getting on the short and filling that limit buyer, and then we got this trigger. This is the trigger push. So anywhere in here is a nice trigger. So also from a chart reading standpoint, I felt like this area was in oil finally had a pretty good chance for a long trade up into here. So 50-60 point target, 50 or 50-60 tick target coming back down into this untested demand here, bouncing right off this LVN from the RTH session. And so the issue again with this is that where are these last sellers trapped? Anywhere in here. So really this last seller is what I would have kind of been leaning on, but fairly risky, around a 50 entry, and then basically 43 tick stop for a potential to come up through all the way up through these highs. This is weak highs here, and probably into this structure, this LVN into the 07. So about a 1-to-1 risk, but I mean, to take a 40, I don't know that I would take that live. Probably not with the liquidity where it's at too. So I passed on that trade, but it made sense. The chart made sense, and the structure made sense to lean on it, but had a lot going for it. But I mean, can't be taking 40 tick stops and losses that it didn't work out. It's going to be real hard to offset that. So question is now, does the ES have further downside potential? I think it definitely does. This is a strong trending day to the downside. Not that that means anything. The issue, as I see for further downside, is that we are definitely having very large limit absorption from buyers here. So it doesn't mean it can't continue lower. I mean, it easily can. They can continue to accumulate indefinitely down through here, but we are coming back into a fairly strong untested demand area here, and that's basically all the way from this area all the way down to the current lows. So we could easily see this down to the 40, anywhere down to the 41.80, 41.70. So that's where we've tested so far. So see if I can get a decent setup on a continuation, but I'd want to see that coming back up and really testing this structure, showing me that there's the potential for having more of these buyers trapped for further downside. So I just took a break even on the long ES trade here. Came up, didn't quite break this low, but had a nice imbalance push higher all the way up through here. Came back to hold this structure here. These last sellers, it looked like they definitely could be trapped there. Came back and I entered right around here on this pullback at, let's see what time it was. It was at 12:16. So that's on this pullback here. Put in the volume on the right side right here, and I entered right as we pushed back up through this. About 4 points of equity on that one, and we just couldn't get it done. So really not sure. There seems to be a lot of limit selling, and I mean, we have big limit selling coming in here, limit sellers in here again. So it's definitely a pretty big fight here on both sides of this trade. So I'm not real convinced either way now. So it looks like if we can hold this area, these last late longs could potentially be trapped and for a push down. The issue is that on the short side, we're coming back into this untested demand area. So the trade has more potential to the upside in my opinion, but we've just had this gradual grind down the whole session. So lots of really big potential to the upside, but probably going to have to do it without me